Hi guys, my name is Leslie English and I run Less English Makeup LLC. I'm a professional makeup artist and have been for many years now. I also am a registered nurse with my master's, and I'm finishing my nurse practitioner right now so that I can expand my franchise of beauty and wellness. Alright, so I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about hooded lids and how to transition just a neutral eyeshadow look today. This is part of my series called the English Lessons, and I'm going to be actually adding many looks to this page. Sorry if you hear swimming in the background and craziness. My daughter is playing in the pool. Alright, so we're going to start with a simple palette that I think is easy for transition with these colors for any eye color. This is the Too Faced Chocolate palette, the Bonbon, and it is really cute. It smells amazing. So it has a couple of highlights in there, along with shadows that range in a very neutral brown, grays, and some pink purple tones. Alright, so the first thing that I always like to do when I'm teaching a client how to do eyeshadow is first discover what eye shape you have. Personally, I have a small bit of a hood, and if you don't know what a hood is, it's where the lid comes down over the eyelid. A deeper set eye would look more like this. A mono lid has no lid at all. You have to create a lid. Kagan wants to say hi to everyone really fast. Say hi. You're getting me soaking wet. Okay. The difference in your eyelid will make a difference in determining how you're going to put your eyeshadow placement, and it's also going to determine which brush you're going to use. So I'm going to show you guys a couple fluffy brushes here and talk to you about the difference. So the shape of your eyelid and where your eyebrow is, as well as eye spacing. When you hear me talk about eye spacing, that means from the brow to the lash line. So I have a larger eye space here. I have over 1.5 inches if you look at my fingertip, and so I can use a wider brush. I have a lot of space to work with. Some people, especially monolid people, which is very common in Laotian and Pacific Islander descent, have half the eyelid space, so you're going to want to use a smaller brush. So here's some brushes just to show you what I'm talking about. When you hear me talk about the ferrule of a brush, it's going to be this metal part that holds together the brush bristles and the actual brush. When you're cleaning, we'll talk about this down. That's a whole other English lesson for you. But when we're doing our eye makeup, we want to get one, and we want to determine which one is better for us. I like a thicker one for like an all over transitional blend. That's not something that I would use to set my placement colors. This one is great because it's flimsier. You can look at the sizing. For me, it is a good size, but it might be a little too big for someone else. The smaller chubby blender, I like this better for working on the outer sides of my eyes. So I would narrow it down to one of these 3 brushes, and I'm most likely going to go with either this brush from Kala or Farah, both right here. Both are great brushes, but see how they taper and they get a little bit wider. Okay, so for this part, I've already primed my eyes, and by doing so, I've used an eyeshadow primer and put a powder on top so that my finger glides easily over my eyelid. I want to make sure that there's no creasing, but I also want to make sure that it's smooth so that when I use my eyeshadow, it is not going to grab and put like a little spot on my eye that gives you a weird, funky discoloration in one part. So I always tell people to start with a very neutral. We'll do a whole nother English lesson on what color theory is best for you, whether you have blue eyes, brown eyes, or green eyes. Today we're going to talk more about placement of eyeshadows. Alright, so I'm going to grab this color here called Mocha. I'm going to dip my brush and always make sure to get the excess off. So if you have a hooded lid, you're going to want to hold a little bit more down and at an angle to really get into that lid. If you have a deeper set eye, you can go straight across. There are 3 different methods that I personally like to teach, which is the windshield wiper, where you go back and forth. You can do a small strokes back and forth, or you can do what I prefer, which is more like a circular small motion all the way around. I'm going to show you. Alright, so this is where I start with my brush with my light color. I always want to start on the outside. That reason being is if I have too much eyeshadow on my brush, it's going to be fine if it deposits there, because The look that we're showing today is a very basic look, so you're going to want to put the light on the inside and darker on the outside. All right, so I have some shadow on my brush, and I'm going to start going back and forth. I have a little bit of a hooded lid like we talked about, so you're going to see me hold my brush more at an angle. If you have a deeper set, remember, you hold like this. If you have a very hooded or protruded eyelid, you could hold like this. For me personally, I kind of like to do right in the middle. So, right in the middle. All right, so if you notice, I am going to use the circular motion, and I'm gonna go from the outside in, and then I'm gonna come back. A lot of times people ask me, Les, where should I hold my brush? I understand that the motion you're making, I understand the angle of the brush and how that makes a difference, but where at on the handle do I need to be holding my brush? So I always like to tell them, if you're gonna do a precise look, like when you're detailing, you wanna hold up close. But if you're gonna do something such as shading, notice how my brush kind of falls, like makes it a lot easier. You're gonna wanna do that for when you're doing this step that I'm doing. All right, so once you go back and forth and you feel like you have that color deposited nicely into the crease, the trick with a hooded lid is you're gonna want to pull the eye angle upward like this. So you really want to go a little bit higher than a normal crease, and we're going to mute that out with a lighter color. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the other eye real quick. So at this point, I have both creases done, and if I was in a super hurry, I could leave at this point, just knowing that at least my eye, if you can tell, now you can see that I have an eyelid on both sides all the way across. For the second part, we're going to use a flatter brush. So I have two brushes here. They're pretty similar in size. Again, it has to do with your eye spacing. You can use a larger brush if you really want to cover the whole eyelid. You can use smaller if you have detail work, such as you're going to put a cream on first. That'll be another English lesson when I teach you how to do a halo and also a cut crease. Today we're just gonna do simple powder. So I enjoy teaching. This is probably my very favorite part of my job. I will put the colors in the description for you in the video, and if you have any questions, feel free to message me directly. So I think for the color that we're gonna do below, I'm gonna start first with this Divinity just to kind of set my eye, and then I'm gonna come in with this color right here called Sprinkles. All right, so first we're gonna grab the Divinity, and I am going to literally set it on the eyelid. I'm going to be going under where we created the crease, and I'm covering basically the ball of the eye. So once I get my color put on, I really want to focus going from the inner corner outward. And I've set it in place. I will rub the edges to make sure that it's blended. So I'm gonna do the other eye real fast. I'm gonna take the same brush. If you wanna get a really nice dramatic effect, you can wet your brush. It will bring the color out so much more, but I'm gonna take the Sprinkles and I'm gonna do the same motion over top of where I put the Divinity. At this point, your eyeshadow is gonna not look very blended. It's going to look a little bit patchy sometimes. So that's okay. We're going to do an ultimate blend at the end that's going to make it super easy for you. So my next step is we're really going to want to detail the corner. Remember, this is a basic look, so if you want more of an advanced look, you need to make sure you're subscribed and liking the English lesson channel, because we're going to be working next on that. All right, so these are a lot of the brushes that I use when I'm working on clients. These are my personal brushes, so that's why they have a little shadow on them here. Always use, it's important to note that you use clean brushes in between each client. I spray my brushes daily, and I wash my brushes every 1 to 2 weeks with a deep clean. So for me personally, I'm gonna use 2 brushes today, and it will be these 2 right here. Okay, so with these brushes, I'm first going to start with this brush right here. It came from Morphe. It's M139. For affordable brushes, I feel like Morphe is a good option a lot of times. I do not work for them or endorse them. If you do hear me using Lime Life, I actually do represent them, so that is one company that I work with closely. I am first going to start out with Malted, which is a lighter brown, and I'm going to get this on my brush here. I'm going to take away the excess, And a lot of times what I teach people that are just beginning is you can make like a little V right here. You can call it like a backward 7, but I am literally going from the side of the pupil and down. So if your eye were a window pane, if you were to imagine that it's 4 panes, I'm going to be working in the lower pane. Okay. So with this color, I've got some on my brush and I'm going to just kind of blend it in. I'm going to take and pull that color and I'm going to pull it inward at the top and the bottom, making sure that I fill in that little space in between. This right here really helps to give the eye definition. If you think about it, an eye is, and just like any other type of artwork, where you are working to do lights and shadows and to show the transition in the eye. So I'm going to do the other eye really fast. Okay. A lot of times people will ask me, how do you use so many colors? So if you're having a day where you need to skip a couple colors, that's okay too. But like on a day like today, after I've used that brush, I'm going to set it back to the side because that and my large blender are 2 brushes I'm going to be coming back to, as well as this very finely pointed brush from Loud Cosmetics, number E6. Loud Cosmetics is another company that's newer, that hasn't been around long, that I enjoy working with immensely. So the color I'm going to use to get like a deeper, darker, rich corner is called Dark Turtle. This brush right here is one that I'm going to hold closer to the ferrule, as we discussed earlier, because I truly want to set it where I want it to be. So think about inside that window pane, this is the detail. You're gonna see this color again. And if needed, I will wet the brush for a more dramatic effect. Okay, so right there, we just have our placement. We are not using the same brush to blend. I'm gonna go back to the brush that we had before from Morphe. I keep a little washcloth or a blender or either blue jeans to clean out my brushes. I'll just literally clean the colors right out so that nothing transfers. So I want to blend those two together. And remember, because I have a hooded lid, I'm pulling mine this way. I'm pulling my eyelid upward to where I seem a lot more awake now, and that you can see this part of my eyelid, definitely. All right, so I'm gonna do the other eye real quick. Okay, at this point, I am going to switch gears for a moment, and I'm going to go to one of my secret weapons when I'm wearing my eyes like this. If you are a deep setted eye, you can wear a really pretty wing. If you're hooded, you can wear a wing. That's going to be another English lesson completely, but today I'm not going to be wearing top liner other than a little bit of powder. I am going to be putting a nude in my waterline, as well as we're going to turn up the heat a little bit with a really pretty green color from NYX that looks a little bit like a sea foam that I will be showing you momentarily. So I'm going to show you what I do with this part. So I'll either use a concealer or a liner, and I prefer the ones by Lime Life that we have because they're buttery. If you remember back in the day, if you were like me when I started as a makeup artist and just as a girl that wore makeup, we had to burn our, take a lighter and burn the ends to get that really buttery feeling. Well, these come off like that and they're waterproof, so I like that liner. If you notice now, of course I've got to put on my mascara, but this just gives your eyes an open pop that really is going to create that light and dark contrast, because we're going to use a little bit of dark on top and we want to have the light on bottom and then like the electric color below that. Okay, so we're coming back to our Loud E6 brush here, and I've wet the brush. I want to go back into that dark turtle color that I was telling you guys about, and I am going to go into my lash line, and what I'm doing is where my lashes sit, I'm going right under the rim like you would with a tight liner. If you were to be tight lining, or either doing an inner upper water lid liner, which I am very famous for, and I will show you those techniques as we go. But notice how just using this shadow, I'm opening up the eye. So I'm bringing the dark up and light. So when we talk about lips, when we get to that part, we're gonna do light and dark. It always just expands and causes you to have that very doe-eyed, Sleeping Beauty Ariel look effect. So let's get the other eye. And a lot of times I will tell you a little pro tip. When I am doing eyeliners or eyeshadows, I always take my brush and go from under the lashes as well, because you can have those little white areas on your lid that look like skips. You just want to make sure you catch those so you don't have any little white places peeking out that people can see. So now we're going to look a little bit at the top lid here, and a trend for this fall is more of a matte look. I do love these pencils by Red Aspen. I can recommend some eyeshadows and different things. One side is a shimmer, which I will put right here, and we're going to blend that in, and the other side's matte. So I like to take the matte side and fill in this spacing that we have yet to put any eyeshadow on. So I'm going to create the illusion of bringing that eye upward. So I want to go back to the brush that I used for the flat part of my eye here. I'm going to go back and grab that powder that was very matte. And I'm going to show you another brush that I love, but I don't want you to feel like you have to go out and get all these brushes. So I wanted to show you how to do this with just your regular shadow brush. And this is a flat shadow, large brush. This is one of my very favorite brushes, and it is by the Japanese, and I love this little fan. You can take it as a great blender. So a lot of times you don't have to have it. I like you to know about it because I feel like you can get a good blend, and then you can kind of use it a little bit on your highlight as well. So before we go back to our eyeshadow, we're going to look at the eyeliner choice that I was telling you, and this one's called Teal. It's by NYX. I like how it glides on. It takes a little more pressure than the Lime Life ones. So I'm going to take the pencil and I'm going to come under my lash line. A lot of times, if I'm not wearing a bold eyeshadow, but I kind of want to stand out, I'm going to give myself something such as this liner. That's a good little pop for me. I don't like to pull the skin too tight, but I do like to get right up at the skin line. This can be added on top of the nude and the waterline as well, but today I'm going to keep it below. And I am actually going to take and go back to our Morphe R41 here. And I'll give you a detailed list of what I used in the comments, because I always get asked that. I'm going to go right over the green to kind of tone it down. Just underneath the eyes right there. So I would want to go bolder at this point. Sometimes you can blend so much that you don't feel like anything shows, and I would take my blender and just kind of fill in just with the darker color that I used from the beginning. And I'm going to take my bigger fabulous shader here, and this is a blender, and I'm going to grab, at this point I want to get a very neutral color, so I'm going to use this Cashew Chew. It is a very gray based ivory. I want to have enough on my brush to blend, and this is a great way to take your colors and to make sure that there's no lines or demarcations showing at all. People always ask me, how do you get that flawless mixed eyeshadow look? And this is how. Notice that you can still kind of see where that's blended. It doesn't look bad, but that's the difference in a professional image versus someone that is just talented at makeup. Lightly blend. You don't want to blend everything you did away. I take at the end my excess here because that's going to help set underneath your eyes. And next we're going to do our mascara. Okay, so for today's mascara, I will tell you we're going to do an English lesson on mascaras coming up soon. A lot of mascaras depend on the wand. I have naturally very long lashes. I use a little bit of enhancement on my lashes, but I don't need a lot of length. I'm more into volume, so I really like the Too Faced Better Than Sex, and that's what we're going to use today. All right, so I'm going to start on bottom. And a little pro tip that I will tell you guys is if you get it on your face, do not go for the wet Q-tip. Let it completely dry. Take a spoolie. A lot of times, because I'm a makeup artist, I keep like clean spoolies. If not, you can use one that you just saved from an old mascara one, and you can gently scrape that right off the face, and it will completely come off. Did you know the nurse practitioner in me wants to tell you a fun fact that the muscle that's connected in your face to the ocular nerve always has to do this to be able to get that reflex. So a lot of times when women say, I look crazy when I'm putting on mascara, it's all of us. It's the way that the muscle folds to be able to get to the eye. So I'm going to start on the back. I always tell people put mascara on the back and front. It's kind of like, if you don't put it on the back when you look down, people notice. Also, it's like a puppet show. It's just like you're kind of like a ventriloquist there. You don't have anybody in the back. Kind of like a shell. All right, so once I focus on the roots first, so after I get my roots coated, I will come back to that eye. I go to the second eye. And again, I get down in the roots and I go from the back over to the front. A lot of times I will keep a spoolie, such as one that you're going to do your eyebrows with, just to be able to really get down in there. So I'm going to go back to the first eye, and I will be doing a look on lashes and how to get the most of your lashes, whether short or long. So make sure that you stay tuned for that English lesson as well. Okay, so we're gonna come back after a second coat. And there you have your first English lesson on Easy Eyes transition using this palette and a few supplies. As always, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel so that you stay up to date with the most recent knowledge. Drop your email below so that you can join my newsletter as well.